Hey everybody, welcome to another crafting improv video. You know, I still have a lot of stuff left over from Goodwill by the pound, so I decided to go through it. Luckily I've got Kringle here to help me out with all the heavy lifting. He's a very helpful little guy. So big ups to Kringle. Love you, buddy. Anyways, as I started to go through my stuff, I started to realize that maybe what I wanted to do was some sort of junk walls. Now, junk walls was an interesting project because I do just have just random bits of stuff, and I started to figure in my mind, you know, it'd be cool to do like just a large pile of just random stuff. I ended up making it a little less random than I originally wanted. My original idea was to literally just have a bunch of absolute random stuff just kind of in a pile. But then it slowly started to evolve as an idea to the point where I started to get the idea of like a fantasy thing where there's a zombie invasion or an undead invasion. So villagers would just kind of throw everything they possibly could at the walls and just make like these makeshift barricades. And I really was interested in that. And, you know, this is probably one of the better uses for some of the random little bits that I have. And of course, I had a bunch of badly casted Hearst arts things. Hearst arts are molds where you can make awesome little bits of terrain and dungeon dressing stuff. And, you know, these are all ones that I saved that for whatever reason didn't turn out right. But they were nice enough looking where I figured, you know, I would have some use for them later down the road. Well, later down the road never really happened up until this point. So I figure this is the best use for these because otherwise I don't know if I'm ever really going to use these things at all. And yeah, all the other little bits of plastic nonsense are from the Goodwill by the pound. These are the little crafting wood squares, which I'm going to be cutting in half very carefully to make the bases. This little cannon, the cannon itself looked good, but the base of the cannon looked like garbage, so I got rid of that. I figured that this would be a good use for something like that. I had a leftover spine from those skeleton models that I found, and some of the dollar store skeletons as well, and a wagon which was all wonky, and I figured would actually make a nice little base for one of the barricades. I kind of wish that I had left the wagon intact, but it looks pretty nice with all the wheels all cut up and whatnot. I have several of those wagons, so I figure it's okay to expend one of them on a project like this. Because I think the broken wagon wheels just look really nice. Very carefully cutting these things. These are the cheap wood discs, so they're just kind of like filled in like beaver board or, you know, the cheap plywood. They got the cheap inner bits there, so this was not a perfect job cutting these. But, you know, I sanded them off, I cut them off a little bit, and they matched up well enough. I basically pasted one together, and then the other one I used some wood stirrers to kind of make some little bits of, I don't know what you call them, supports, just to make sure that these little bases would stay together until I could use some hot glue to start gluing on the larger bits. It's my clumsy attempts to try to keep this all square here. I probably could have just avoided this and just went straight in with the hot glue, putting the pieces together. But yeah, this worked out pretty good. So there we go. We got the wagon sans wheels for the base of the one barricade. Started to put in little bits of cobblestone, little bits of educational toys and whatnot to act as kind of like the big beefier parts. That big old toy barrel there. Some more cobblestone bits. And this is where the kind of putting it together like a puzzle that doesn't make any sense. I'm basically fitting together little parts and pieces and just kind of moving it around and seeing what looks interesting to me And that's what I'm going to go with. So yeah, you get a lot of nice little furniture there, which is obviously all not really casted well, but it looks good because obviously they would throw like broken furniture and whatnot. They'd throw all that stuff on top of this pile. We got a Hearst Arts door there that's got a bunch of holes and it's all wonky. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out the exact spot where this dumb door would look nice. And it just didn't fit on this one thing. So eventually I gave up, went to a different piece. This is actually a good little project flow of work here. If you're trying to fit a piece in and you can't immediately find a place where it looks nice, just grab something else and see where that can fit in. So eventually I found this little area here where it's like, oh yeah, the door would actually look pretty nice here. So I dropped the door, tried to fit, didn't fit anywhere. Found a space where it looked nice on the other piece of wall, and I hot glued it in place. And yeah, I think that was actually probably the nicest place for it, because again, that's actually a halfway decent cast, so you want it very visible. And that was the thing, I wanted all the really nice stuff that had the like nicest textures and looked the nicest. I wanted those kind of on top or highly visible. And eventually I figured that big educational toy piece, the gear thing, that would look nice, like kind of rusted up. And here I am making some makeshift doors and kind of doing the old, carving up and adding some texture. And I'm going to kind of make just a really wonky looking door that I figure looks good enough because this is kind of put in place to hide some of the bad details of the other bits. So I didn't need it like a perfect looking door on the sides there where I put these. So yeah, overall I think these looked really good and kind of put them together very nicely. You can see the dollar store skeleton shield there. You can see the cannon that I put on top of the other little bit there. And I'm using some Sculptamold to fill in little bits. And I experimented a little bit more with Sculptamold. It's actually really good at casting stuff, so I'm going to work with that. After a bit of a priming, these things really started to pull together. You know, they looked really bad, but I actually ended up making a third one that had more play space. This one was organized, so it's like a little bit of a set of stairs there, so then you can put miniatures on top of it. So it actually would be a little bit of playable terrain and cover. So this would be like the point where you would have lookouts on the various little areas there. And yeah, so this would be the behind scenes, so obviously you're facing outward. And you can check out the painting stream where I painted these up. Very good. All I did was use some different wood shades, and I think the fanciest thing that I did was some rust effects with the Citadel rust effects, which I think are the easiest and best rust effects to use on any project. You really don't use that much of it for something like this. So yeah, I really like how the gear looks all rusted up, as well as those, I think they're like little hair things. I don't know what they are, but the little gate looking things, I rusted them up as well. You can see like the little shields there from the EM4 miniatures. You can see the nice little bit of rust that I put on some of the random bits that kind of looked like machinery. I don't know. You can definitely see, too, how these fit together better in certain ways. If I do a project like this in the future, I'm definitely going to make them fit together. I guess you could put them in a big mass like that, but yeah, they look a little bit wonky some angles. But you know what? They don't have to be perfect, but I think a little bit of planning to make the edges more squared would make putting them together and using them in different formations a little bit easier and better. So the more you do things like this, the more you learn. I think that these turned out very nice, especially if you consider this is literally just me grabbing random bits of stuff that I mostly found at the Goodwill by the pound and just kind of putting them together in random configurations. And yeah, I feel like this was an excellent use, especially of those failed Hearst Arts castings. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something, and I hope if you got a bunch of random bits, you can make your own junk walls And be sure to share your own creations in the community tab, Facebook or Discord. Share your thoughts about this project in the comments below, and I will see you all later.
Have a great day, and as always, thank you for watching the video.